27th. I have Tej Seth, my dear friend, fellow Michigander, with me. What's going on?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. We hung out in Vegas where a lot of that intro was from, and so it's good to do the show again. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, it's fun. You came on when we were in person. Now we are not in person, which is usually the other way around. Before that happens, before we jump into some stuff, I can't believe it's already week 4. By the way, that flew by. Why don't you let everyone know where they can find your stuff and kind of what you do very quick?
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for letting me do this. I'm a data scientist at Sumer Sports, where you're wearing the hat. So really appreciate that. Sumer Sports is a roster optimization company working with NFL teams and also having a public facing side where we put out articles, tools that you can use on the website, different stuff like that. So I do my own podcast with my friend Sean Syed called Stats and Scheme that you can find wherever you get your podcasts. And then also check out the Sumer Sports website for some of my articles.
Yeah, Sumer Sports is awesome. Your podcast is also awesome. Didn't get to finish this most recent episode, but go check it out. I want to jump right into Kyle Pitts. So there's 2 things I'm finding very consistent with my teams that are not doing well. And they either have Kyle Pitts or Justin Fields and or both. But either both of them are on it, one of them is on it. But that seems to be the consistent common denominator across my teams. When is it time to panic on Kyle Pitts? And we kind of know what he's done on European soil before. Where's the panic meter at here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty high on Kyle Pitts right now. It's nothing against what Kyle Pitts is doing. I mean, he was open for a walk-in 70-yard touchdown against the Lions this past week, but Desmond Ridder missed him. I think when you have an offense that's a combination of how much the Falcons are running the ball, plus Desmond Ridder being pretty up and down from a quarterback perspective, I think that that's why Kyle Pitts hasn't produced so far. We have him as tight end 10, I think, for the rest of the season, because his air yards and his target share have been so high, relative to other tight ends. Tight ends are just a down year right now. We're lucky that Taylor Swift chose Travis Kelce. If she chose any other tight end, Swifties would be having a bad introduction to football right now. But I think Pitts is going to break out one of these weeks. The problem is we just don't know which week. And you kind of just have to keep starting him until he gets that actual 60-yard touchdown that makes him get put in your lineups. But it's just so hard to tell when that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's really painful because you do kind of need to take him. Luckily, he was falling a little bit in drafts, so you don't feel I feel at some point in the season, we're going to be able to be all right, this week I just can't do it. But he's going to be one of those players that has spike weeks. Is there a tight end? And I feel I've been talking about tight ends a lot on this show now, but so sorry guys for some of this being repetitive, but is there a tight end that you're looking at that's kind of more of this sleeper or not as many people are talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the obvious one right now is Sam Laporta, who a lot of people are talking about after last week. If he's still available on waivers in your league, I feel like you have to get him. Yeah. Leads all tight ends in receiving yards right now, especially without Jameson Williams for the next couple of weeks. He's going to be the second receiving option behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. But the other one that I really like right now is Evan Ingram. I think that the Jaguars are going to do a pretty big self-assessment this week on how much they're force-feeding Calvin Ridley and the bad red zone variants that they've had recently. Yeah. And I really think if you can trade for Evan Ingram right now, or if he's on your bench and you want to start starting him, I think that in the next couple of weeks, we're really going to start to see some pretty good production out of him.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think we do see, I know, again, talking about the Giants a lot, I think that we do see a good week out of Darren Waller, and I think we see good weeks out of him moving forward. This will be kind of a litmus test to what the Giants really are this week. I know it's in prime time, so we can't really use that sometimes with Daniel Jones as something to go off of. But what teams are you looking at as far as an overachiever or underachiever this year so far?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Packers have overachieved so far this year. I think that they've been built off explosive plays throughout the first couple weeks of the season. They rank 18th in success rate, how often they're staying ahead of the sticks, how often they're having a positive play. But they rank 3rd in offensive EPA per play. So I think they're overachieving from that aspect, where maybe that comes down to earth a little bit. You look at week 1, they took advantage of a pretty bad Bears defense, and then week 3 they had the big comeback against the Saints, where Jordan Love did look good in the fourth quarter, but did not look good the first 3 quarters of that game. So I'm very curious to see like where the Packers kind of stabilize. Like, what's kind of your read on them so far this year?
They definitely are overachieving for me, not a team that I think was on my radar. They were more of a stay away team because I don't think that Jordan Love, there was much to go off of yet. It's very interesting when you look at those 2020 quarterbacks, though, that got drafted that year. Those are the names that we're probably going to hear about for years and years to come. And he might be, putting himself into position to maybe be in that conversation. The Packers are interesting. The NFC North as a whole, I don't know where you're at with the Vikings. I still think that the Vikings, some of these games are a little bit more impressive than some of their wins last year. And I think that I'm not ready to jump off. I think they're going to kind of figure it out. They have to figure it out. The stats, whether it's Kirk, whether it's JJ, you name it. A lot of this is really just coming down to fumbles, and they don't have the luck on their side like they had last year. Do I think that they're going to win the NFC North? Not necessarily. But I think the Packers and Lions game for both of these teams, like I think it's a more even matchup than a lot of people want to say. What's your read on that game, and do you lean one side?
Yeah, first off, I agree with everything you said with the Vikings. I actually think that they're a better team this year than they were last year.
I think their defense looks better. I mean, I know that it's not as impressive because they're not getting the wins, but again, like that Chargers game could have went any other way. The Tampa game could have went the other way. The Eagles game could have went the other way. They're just not finishing games. So while I know that that's a big issue, it'll be interesting to see. Like this is kind of a must-win game for them to get right and get the locker room back in on it, because I think we're going to start to see some issues. JJ has to get paid. Like there's a lot of conversations that need to start being had, especially Kirk's contract is coming to an end. But as far as the Lions Packers game, where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, I think this game is going to be really fun to watch on Thursday night. I'm going to be stressed out the whole time, but I think non-Lions fans will enjoy it. So the game is really interesting. I think like the Lions offense hasn't been as good as they were last year. I think that they're really missing a true like secondary receiving option right now behind St. Brown. Like Laporta has started to emerge, but still a rookie tight end. And then the usage of Jahmyr Gibbs has been a little bit weird. I think that he's still learning the playbook and he can't pass protect yet when he's in the backfield. So if they put him in, it's like an obvious tell that he's going to run a route or end up getting a handoff. So I think that's interesting. But like the Lions defense has played a lot better since the second half of 2020. Their run defense has really been shorn up. They had the really bad game against the Panthers, but other than that, they've done a good job of stopping the run. And we've seen the Packers like to rely on the run game as Jordan Love kind of gets used to taking the reins here. So if Aaron Jones, Christian Watson play, I think the Packers will be able to put up a decent amount of points on the Lions through the air. But I like the Lions run defense to shut them down on the ground in this game. So I am leaning Lions. Like I think that they are going to have the slightly better passing game and then the much better running game in this game. So I like the Lions in a close game. Like how do you feel about that game?
Yeah, I think that either way, this is somewhere where I'm not picking a side on this game. I'm going to stay away from it. We try to stay away from, these overs on Thursday and Monday night football. I actually think these two games for the first time in a while, and these numbers have moved already, but I think I wouldn't call anyone crazy for going over on either of these. I think that there's going to be points to be had. Packers game versus the Lions, I probably lean a little bit more towards that under, but I think the over in like the Giants Seahawks game is actually a pretty good bet. I think this is going to come down to the offenses and who wants it more, who makes more mistakes. So we'll talk about that game in a little bit, but another team that I think is catching people by surprise, maybe not me, because I did take their win total over 3.5 once it dropped down. And that's the Arizona Cardinals. I think maybe, people will say that they're kind of outperforming like what their talent is and what that roster looks like. And while I think that's true, I think there's also a lot of talent on that roster too, that people just chose to ignore. And it was easy to use them as a team that wasn't going to perform well. This matchup is huge. They probably fall very flat on their face, probably. But if they stay in this game, like What does that say about the Arizona Cardinals, and where are you at with them as a whole?
Yeah, I'm glad that we're talking about this because I thought it was so annoying when everyone was like hating on Jonathan Gannon's press conferences. Like
Yeah.
did that same exact thing not happen with Nick Sirianni when he was talking about like playing rock, paper, scissors
Yes.
with his, and like look at what the Eagles have done since then. So like I've heard really, really good things about Jonathan Gannon. Like I know that players loved him on the Eagles last year, and then that's obviously continued with the Cardinals because like you mentioned, like they are playing hard. And I mean, this matchup against the 49ers is so
Ridiculous.
difficult. Like I'm sure the Cardinals are pumped that they just upset the Cowboys, but when you have to play like the second best offense in the league behind the Dolphins right now, and then the defense that's ranked fourth in EPA per play allowed this season, like it's going to be a really tough matchup. But I think like you said, like I think the Cardinals will keep it close because it's not only are they playing hard, but it's teams kind of just look over them right now.
Yeah, I think so. And they play feisty. Like they remind me of another team that I want to talk to you about, and that is the Houston Texans, who since last year, I just have this soft spot for them. I think they had a really good draft. I think that they went out and they made some moves that kind of showed they're not waiting till next year to try to win some games. Like they want to win games right now. This matchup is going to be very interesting. There's, the percentage of the money in the bets is actually all coming in on Houston. The Steelers are, I think, 3-point favorites. That line opened at 4.5. Coming in a little bit on the Texans' favor. CJ Stroud has the best EPA out of all the rookie QBs. Where are you at with the Houston Texans? Because I like them. There's a lot of garbage time stuff going on, which I think is skewing some of these like passing numbers. But where are you at?
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you brought up the Texans also because I really want to talk about them this week. Yeah, like you said, like CJ Stroud is playing well right now. 16th in the entire league in EPA per play, the best amongst rookies, like you mentioned. And then like it's not only CJ Stroud, but what's happening with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. They both rank top 12 in yards per route run this year. Like I think that's something that you can be really excited about. Dalton Schultz hasn't really even emerged yet. And we know that he's a pretty good tight end and he could get going anytime. So like, even though the Texans run offense isn't that good, like I think their pass offense could play pretty well. And then like on the other side of the ball, like they traded a lot to go up and get Will Anderson, but I mean, he's ranking really highly in every metric right now. I think I don't know if he'll ever be worth the draft capital that they gave up, but he's definitely cementing himself as a premier edge rusher pretty early in his career.
Yeah, and I think that the Steelers defensive line is going to be a good way to see like how Stroud is under pressure, because those numbers they're kind of poor right now, for lack of a better term. So I'm excited to see what he does against the Steelers team. It wouldn't shock me if the Texans were to cover. It's hard because the Steelers defense is going to continue to keep them in games. Where are you at with the Steelers offense? Because some of it just feels very, I don't want to say fraudulent, but I don't love what I've seen out of them for someone that bet their win total over.
Yeah, I was so out on the Steelers offense, like after the first 2 weeks, like watching them in that Monday night game against the Browns where they had -7 total yards in the fourth quarter and ended up winning the game was like crazy. But like, I mean, they ranked 31st out of the 32 teams in EPA per play right now. Success rate is 29th. They did hit that explosive play to Calvin Austin last week that made me a little bit of crow, but yeah, he's so good. Yeah.
I fell in love with him, and I had bets on him last week. People that are listening, congrats if you cash that with me. But Calvin Austin is just like my guy. Like I saw him at the Senior Bowl. He was someone I didn't go down there like to look at, and you couldn't keep your eyes away from him. So seeing him even get a little bit of action makes me so happy. But I cut you off. I'll let you finish your thoughts there on the Steelers.
No, I mean, this is like, I think the listeners should be really excited. Like, this is true dedication. Like when someone goes to the Senior Bowl in Alabama to like look at players, like that's how you know that they love ball and like they love doing this stuff. But about the Steelers offense, like I think as long as Matt Canada it's tough for me to like truly buy in. They're so talented. Like between Pickens and when Deontay Johnson comes back from injury, Calvin Austin we just talked about. Jalen Warren is getting more touches every week. Like they're so talented, but it's just not schemed up well. Like there's no easy buttons for the Steelers offense, which is what I think is going to make it really difficult for them.
Why does Najee look like that? Like, why does he look so slow? Do you think it's something about like Canada and the way that they're scheming him up, or is it just simply like Najee has the yips and like fell off? Because I really struggle believing that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. When I was looking at that draft class a couple years ago, like explosive run rate and missed tackles forced are like the two biggest predictors of running back success from college to pro. And like Travis Etienne had him beat in both of those metrics. And so I always thought it was an interesting decision for the Steelers to take Najee Harris ahead of Etienne. And like he was obviously okay as a rookie, and like I think it's a combination of just running back aging curves just kind of hitting at this time, and then him never really being an explosive running back, and like that's kind of holding him back. But you're right, like he looks way slower than he ever did in his career, which I think is like pretty concerning.
I feel like I could beat him in a race. Like that he
Yeah.
looks really slow, which
Yeah.
is a shame. I hate when these guys kind of get dragged on Twitter, and he unfortunately is one of them right now. This week there's two matchups against teams that are 0-3. Hilarious. Like it's been a while since we've seen something like this. You've got Minnesota at Carolina, Denver at Chicago. Both of the favorites are going on the road. Where are you at with these games? Like, do you think it's going to be the favorites that win these games? Can Carolina or Chicago be feisty? We could have a whole conversation about Chicago because we're going to get there at some point. But where are you at with both of these 0-3, or all four of these 0-3 teams?
Yeah, let's talk about the Bears. I feel like we have to.
Yeah, we got to do it. We got to
Yeah.
do it. Are they the worst team in football?
I think the two worst teams might be playing each other in this Broncos Bears game. I actually don't think the Broncos are terrible on offense. Like I think they're going to have an average to below average offense because Sean Payton's going to be able to hold them up. But I think the Bears are the worst team right now because their offense is like the Broncos and Bears defenses are pretty similarly bad, but the Bears offense is so much worse than the Broncos offense right now, right?
Yeah. This is just such a weird matchup. And then with Justin Fields, Chicago shouldn't be allowed to draft a quarterback anymore.
Yeah.
Like they need to outlaw that because this happens. The history behind it, and we won't go through it, but it's absurd how many quarterbacks at this point they've essentially ruined. And they're kind of on the same trajectory. I'll have to credit who this was in the comments later, but I saw a chart and I saved it to bring up, but I totally forgot about it. It's a chart between like Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields and like how their career has went. And then when they peaked at all their MVP tickets and then came crashing down. And it's actually really concerning how similar the two of them are. And I think everyone really thought that you brought DJ Moore over and it was going to help Justin Fields. But I think, and again, something that, has been talked about a lot in this show is they're trying to force Justin Fields to do things he is not good at. And they need to go back to highlighting his strengths, being able to get him to start running. Why has he not hit a single one of his rushing props yet this year?
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you brought that up. Like, I think like the journey that these like really athletic mobile quarterbacks go on that necessarily like maybe aren't like above average passers is like they come out their rookie year and they're kind of forced to do stuff that they didn't do in college, like play more in structure, don't want to get hit by NFL players. And then like the offensive coordinator is like, all right, this isn't working. Like we're just going to let them run around, like be like they were in college. And then they're awesome, right? Like Justin Fields was electric last year when he was allowed to do that. And now the offensive coordinator, the staff is like, all right, we can't get this guy injured though. So we actually need him to run less. And so like, that's like the area, the progression of the career that Justin Fields is on right now. Like the graph that you brought up that Robbie Greer made, where it's like, Fields and Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah. And so like, I think like that's kind of what happening right now is like the Bears like have kind of forced him into the situation with less designed runs, less of him like playing out of structure and more free like he did at Ohio State. So I think that's why he's kind of stuck right now. But like, you're right. Like the Jets like drafted 6 straight quarterbacks in the first or second round, I think in a row before they traded for Aaron Rodgers. Like, I think the Bears are going to get to that level where it's like, all right, like we just can't keep drafting these quarterbacks. Like it's not working. We might as well just trade for whatever disgruntled veteran is available or something.
Yeah. At that point, I think that's going to be their only option. And they're going to get to a place where there's going to be some serious conversations to be had within this organization. So again, like I was saying earlier in the show, I noticed that the two common denominators of a lot of my fantasy, not a lot, I don't have that many that aren't doing poorly, but the ones that are doing poorly have Justin Fields and or Pitts on them. Denver, though, has allowed 7.3 yards per play in these 3 games after being a top 5 defense, which I think that people were a little foolish to not expect a little regression, because what we saw out of them last year, a lot of times we see that regress when they are this very dominant top 5, type unit. So again, they're way worse than I think we all expected, but to expect them to, return to that form, I don't think that's happening. I totally lost my point here. Oh, Justin Fields, right. I think I start him this week, though. Like, I think this is the last week I start him in hopes that you finally get some point. He also has kind of an easy schedule coming up, but it's still Chicago. So I don't know that I trust that.
Yeah, no, I actually agree. I think this game will be pretty high scoring because the defenses are so bad, right? Like the total is 46, which is like a pretty high total. And then the Broncos are favored by 3. But yeah, I agree. I think this would be the time to start Justin Fields. I know he's been like really disappointing so far as a fantasy quarterback, but like if there's any week to do it, it's this Broncos defense that just let up 70 points to the Dolphins, right? Like I feel like that you have to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a team, and this is me being selfish. Now I have a start-sit question. So I have a team where I know they have the same bye week, but I thought it was really rude how far Daniel Jones was falling. So I just drafted him anyways, because I wasn't going to let him keep falling. Would you start Justin Fields over Daniel Jones this week?
Oh, that's a good one. I lean Fields this week.
Yeah, I think
Daniel Jones for the rest of the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair. Okay. Let's talk about Vikings, Carolina. You look at what the Vikings did, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier in the show. Carolina wouldn't have been able to stay in any of those games that they were in. And that's kind of what I'm basing it off of. Like, I don't know that this Carolina team, and I was really hoping that we saw a little bit more of them, but I don't feel great about this Carolina team against this Minnesota team.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think Carolina's offensive line is in such a bad spot right now. Like I was looking at this data today, actually, like most offensive lines in the league have had like their starting lineup or their most common lineup, like 80% of snaps this year. Carolina's at 35. Like they've had a ton of different offensive line combinations. Their offensive line wasn't that good to begin with. So they're just kind of like replacing like average with bad. So I think that Minnesota's defensive line is going to be able to tear. And then like you talked about this earlier, but like Minnesota really just the fumble luck where they've lost something crazy, like 7 out of their 9 fumbles this year. That's going to reverse eventually. They're still so explosive with Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, and even Osborne and Addison, I think are really good. Like I think Carolina's going to have a tough time keeping up in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that they do have such, the thing is too, Madison, and what's crazy is Dalvin Cook did this a lot last year and people totally kind of overlooked it. But when you get down to like, you're literally in the red zone, the amount of times he gets negative yards instead of getting into the end zone is disgusting. Like, I actually think that there's a world where Cam Akers has success on this team. Like, I genuinely think that there is a world, because I don't know that it can be worse than what we've seen out of Madison, because he does not look good. Like, he should have been able to eat up that Chargers D, and he was not able to.
Exactly, right? Like, when they moved on from Dalvin Cook, it was like, okay, like, yeah, it's the right time to move on from Dalvin Cook, especially given his salary.
Right.
But Madison's not a good running back either. Like, maybe you guys should do something. And, they chose to invest in other resources, which is okay, I think. Like, they're not they weren't trying to win this year. They're trying to win next year. And I'm sure they'll get a running back. But yeah, all Madison really has to do is just not fumble. And he hasn't done that so far. But I agree. Like, I think Cam Akers is going to start to get some work eventually in this offense if that keeps up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And, a lot of that staff is actually very familiar with him. So I'm interested to see what he does. He's on my Scott Fishbowl team. So I would love to have him on my bench there. And then, God forbid, someone gets injured, be able to, plug and play him a little bit. Let's talk about the New York Giants first before we talk about this game, because I think everyone's very silly that they think that the Giants are going to win this game. Sorry to everyone watching. Do you have anything nice to say about the Giants?
Let's see here.
It's so bad.
it's hard to come up with something. Here's what I've been telling some of my friends that are Giants fans. I think we talked about this too a little bit, where it's like, I think they played such a tough schedule so far. Like, it can't be as bad as it's been. I mean, obviously they got the Cardinals game, they come back, but like having to play the Cowboys and the 49ers on primetime, who I think are the two best teams in the NFC, was like just such a bad way to start the season. So I you're going to start to play some more mid-tier NFC teams coming up here. Like the Seahawks are considered in that. You still get your 2 games against the Commanders later on in the season, which I think will be interesting. So like that's where I think that the Giants will start to rebound a little bit. But I think like the Darren Waller connection really needs to get going in this game. Like the Giants, their pass catching group just hasn't been good. They haven't been helping Daniel Jones that much. And like we saw last year when they were schemed up really well and overperforming from a pass catching standpoint, like what that offense could do. So I think that's what really needs to improve for this team.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that is a good point. But then what do you do after this week if you lose against, Seattle, which is a much less resistant defense? Because I think there is something to, like, this team looked fantastic in that second half against Arizona. I think it's a no excuse game. You have to figure it out. Stress Geno out, get them to make mistakes. Kayvon Thibodeau has to get going. I'm not going to trash him like the rest of my fan base is choosing to. I think he's still a young player. It's hard to translate to the NFL. Sometimes that takes a little bit longer. Yes, you want him to be NFL ready because of where you drafted him. Unfortunately, we're not really seeing that right now. And playing in New York is hard. The media is an absolute bitch, for lack of a better term. They are not very nice. It's not always as easy as that. So I think the Giants have the tools to win this game. I'd love to see them, scheme up Hyatt too. Like, you have all these weapons that people don't have film on. So like start to use that, have some designed plays for Danny. And I think you can get Geno to mess up. There's a reason why he was a backup for as long as he was.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Jalen Hyatt fan club right here between us two. Like, I just want to see him get the ball. Like that touchdown against the Cardinals made me so happy. So I'm hoping that can continue here. But like, I think the line is really interesting in this game, right? Like Giants -1 in the Geno Smith era in Seattle. The market has never really respected the Seahawks, and like last year they were playing really well. They were hot, and they had that London game against the Buccaneers. And I think the Bucs were like 2.5 point favorites, if I remember correctly. And like, I was like, wow, it's really interesting. Like Seattle's playing really well right now. Tampa's not. Like the market seems off on this game, and the Bucs ended up controlling that game, like the whole rest of the game. So I don't know if that'll happen in this game, but I'm just saying, like, the betting market for some reason, either their prior on Geno Smith or like what they think about the Seahawks in general, just hasn't been super high on them these past 2 years. So like, I think they're seeing a path for the Giants to win this game. And like, I could see that as well. Just based on if you're baking in your preseason priors.
Yeah. And the Seahawks are not a West Coast team that you worry about when it comes to traveling East Coast. Their record is ridiculous when it comes to that. They probably are the outlier when it comes to, these teams. Giants off some extra rest. I think there's a path to both of these teams winning. The Giants need this probably a little bit more than the Seahawks do. They need to get the ball rolling, because then you got to go to Miami. You got to go to the Bills. It gets tough from here. So you got to win this game. You got to be able to get yourself to 2-2 by that point. I appreciate you coming on. Why don't you tell me who's going to win the Ryder Cup?
I'm so nervous. I mean, we were talking about this before the show. I'm still leaning US. I have a bet with a friend who grew up in America, in Michigan, grew up literally in my neighborhood, that for some reason roots for Europe in the Ryder Cup with no connection to Europe whatsoever. So I really need the US to win so I can victory lap around him just for that aspect. But I think we're going to pull it out. What do you think about the Ryder Cup?
Yeah, and I'm having Sam Wagman on next that we can talk about it. But Europe's team scares me. Everyone knows that I'm the queen of like all trends need to come to an end. If there's going to be a Europe team that does beat the USA, I think it could be this one. They haven't won since 1993. That was 30 years ago. I know that because I just turned 30 and was born in 1993. So I think it's going to be a tough match. My gut tells me the USA still pulls it out. But if Europe is going to do it, it's going to be this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be really fun though. I mean, the energy there is going to be insane as it is for all Ryder Cups. But yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Of course.
Have loved what you guys are doing here. Definitely one of my favorite people in the industry. So
Yeah.
anytime I can come on again, I'd love to do so. But appreciate
I
it.
love having people that are smarter than me on, and you, sir, are one of them. So if you guys are not following him, please go do that, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Bye.
See ya. And now the swag man. What's up? I should not sing. That was really bad. That was not great.
I would not recommend swinging. I wouldn't recommend singing if I was you.
I'm not going to do that ever again. And Ryan probably is already writing down the timestamp to get that one cut up. Like we all know about the corny and horny incident that occurred last week that we won't bring up again. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a while since we've had a Wednesday where it's like, holy crap, we get to root for golf this weekend.
Get to root for golf this weekend, and I'm so excited about it. It feels like it's been a while because, yes, there's tournaments, and I'm still scraping up. I've been scraping up some of these two-mans in my season-long team for fantasy golf. But it's not the same, it hits different when we're in the peak of the season. This is not the peak of the season.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. But it is a special week. This is the Ryder Cup. So, we get to get a little bit crazy with our bets this weekend for the Ryder Cup. So I'm excited for it.
It's going to be very fun. Before we talk about the Ryder Cup, first we have Thursday Night Football. But before we talk about that, you are an Eagles fan. How are you feeling about the Eagles thus far this season?
The Eagles have not played a single quarter in which I would say they looked all together, and yet they're still 3-0. So I don't think we've seen anywhere close to the potential that the Eagles have, which is why I'm still super high on them, given that we haven't really shown anything yet, other than the fact that we have probably the best defensive line in the entire NFL. That's
so annoying. It's very painful for me as a Giants fan. And I think that for the Eagles, I don't know what the hell happened to my camera. Let's see if I can fix it here. But for the Eagles, it did not work. I lied. For the Eagles, I think, it sucks for the rest of us because them having a slower start is better for them because they can benefit off of heating up a little bit later in the season.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be a big thing for the Eagles. And I think we as Eagles fans expected a little bit of a slower start, given the fact that we have two new coordinators. We have a whole new defense. Not much change on the offensive side, but the coordinators were definitely a change. I think Shane Steichen played a lot bigger role than people realize. So it was always going to be a little bit of an adjustment period switching to Brian Johnson. I think we've seen that. So I have a lot of faith that things will turn around for them. And, because this past game was the first game that things kind of looked a little bit smoother on offense. You have everything clicking with DeAndre Swift. The Eagles offensive line is doing well. You finally have AJ Brown, getting his target share that he likes. So that all worked out really well. And, I think they're going to be fine going forward.
And Jalen Hurts was sick. God. That's so annoying. It sucks to be in the NFC East right now. It sucks to be in the NFC in general right now with all these teams that look so good. You guys play the Commanders right now. You're 8-point favorites at home. I think it's a fair line.
Yeah, I think it's a fair line. I actually was surprised to see that the Eagles haven't covered in Washington in a couple of years. That was a little bit surprising to me. We did lose to them in Philadelphia last year.
Yeah,
so
Heineke got his Jordans. It was a whole thing.
Yeah, so I remember that. And then I think the last time we won, I'm trying to think of the last time we won against, so I can't think of it off the top of my head in Philadelphia. But this is going to be a Devontae Smith game. If you remember, that was his coming out party.
Yeah.
That was his coming out party last year. He had that 170-yard game plus the insane catch, the insane 55, 60-yard catch. All air yards, by the way, from Jalen Hurts there, down at the 2-yard line. So I do think this is a huge game for him, especially coming off the last game dud. This is going to be a flip-flop every week. You're never going to know who to start for AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, but I do have Devontae Smith ranked inside my top 10 this week and AJ Brown ranked just outside my top 10. So
I love it. And they tend to flip flop like that. They are one of those duos that tend to do a little like swap as far as who has the bigger game. And one thing about me is I'm always going to bet Devontae Smith overs. Like it's just going to be something that you're going to find on my card every single week. What do you think if the Eagles, if you could identify a weak spot for this Commanders team to kind of lean into, like what player comes to mind that could potentially be a problem? And also, what's our panic level with Jahan Dotson? Oh, good, I'm back.
Yes, your camera is fine.
Hello.
Panic level Jahan Dotson is definitely getting there.
For me,
I was reluctant to buy in as much as everyone else because I wasn't in last year, and I didn't want to do just a panic buy in on him like when everyone else was already heavily buying in on him. So I chose to buy in on McLaurin instead. I think this is a much better defensive front for McLaurin to attack. He attacks zone really well, and he always crushes the Eagles. So if I would expect him to really do well in this game, in a game where he really needs to do well for our fantasy rosters because he hasn't shown anything at all this season. But I would put the panic level on Dotson at like a 4.5, 5 right now. He's starting to like kind of get to that point where like you need to reassess. But I think part of the problem has been Sam Howell. And I think you're going to see that switch from Howell to Brissett sooner rather than later. I also think Ron Rivera is going to get fired sooner rather than later, which is just going to expedite that. So, I think the Commanders really kind of came out over their heads, getting off to a 2-0 start, playing really well against the Broncos. But then you saw who they really were last week against the Bills. And it's not that good of a team. They're like a 6-win team, like we really thought.
Yeah,
so,
and I think that was a team I mentioned a week ago, whatever the fuck it was, that I thought that this team was going to come down to earth faster than people realized. They found success early. I don't know how much I would label it success. I do think that there's a world, given like just historically how the Commanders play early in the season, how they play against the Eagles, where they can cover this number. If it continues to creep up, it might be something that I'm looking at. If we start getting to like a 9 or something crazy, I'm probably looking to grab that number there. Brian Robinson has looked great. They've kind of relied on him, but for Commanders fans, I think the best case scenario is for them to just leave Howell in, and actually, because Brissett can win games. And I think that for them, the best world is where you get to the end of the season. I don't think the Commanders will fire Ron Rivera mid-season. I think they were expecting too much. You're going to see it happen at the end of the season. Then you go out. This regime can go and actually get their guy. Not that I want that to happen. So I don't care what they do. That's just what I think.
They're going to be dysfunctional either way. So
they can bring Kirk home. They can just bring Kirk home. Why not? You should have signed him anyways. However many years ago that was. He's still your last 4,000-yard passer. You haven't had one since you got rid of him.
Yeah, absolutely. But as far as a matchup to exploit, I would probably lean on a guy like Goddard for the Eagles to exploit the middle of the field for them.
Yeah.
Commanders play a decent amount of zone, and the middle of the field is wide open for them. So I definitely think that he's a good play. You can attack the corners. They've been just about average. They've all given up about 0.3 fantasy points per pass route, which is a pretty average number. In this week, none of the Eagles receivers have a particularly great matchup. AJ Brown gets to go against Kendall Fuller, which is the best matchup. But other than that, I really don't see a particularly exploitative matchup that doesn't involve like Dallas Goedert going across the middle of the field there.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to pull this question up while I have you. If it shows, I clicked it. Maybe it's not. Pick one, PPR, Moss, A-Chain, and Ford. I don't know why it's not showing. Is it showing? It's not showing.
It did. It showed. And then it
vanished.
Now. But
it's gone. Okay. Where are you at with this one? There we go.
I'm trying to think of who everyone plays. The Browns play Baltimore. the Colts
Bills and
play
Dolphins.
the Rams and the Bills play the Dolphins, I would probably lean as long as Anthony Richardson plays, I would probably lean with Zach Moss. He's looked really good. I'm not sure what we're gonna see with the Dolphins. I'd like to see them like in a game where it's gonna be tight, play their running backs before I make a rash decision on A-Chain and say he's a borderline RB1, because certainly looked it. But we've seen some sketchy things happen with these guys rushing for 200 yards and never being relevant again. Not saying that's going to happen, just want to be a little bit precautious there. But Zach Moss has seen like 65 touches in the past 2 weeks. He is on the inefficient side, as I noted a little bit earlier today, but he sees the volume, and as long as he sees the volume, and they're in a leading game script, which they should be against the Rams team that really has struggled to score the last 4.5, 5 quarters. I would very much be in on Zach Moss there, and Anthony Richardson should be back. So
yeah, I think I lean them in the exact way that you wrote this out, because I think that you can find weaknesses in this Bills defense where A-Chain could have a really big game, especially if you're someone who spent a lot on him. Like, I'm cool with you putting him in, but between him and Ford, they're probably looking at similar situations as far as defenses that they're going up against. So lean Moss, but A-Chain, we've seen now what he's capable of. I saw an interesting tweet where, do you think that McDaniel went and threw everything into that game so the Bills had more to look at? Like, maybe there's a world where he wanted to get them in a situation where he could have a little bit of an advantage going into that game.
I certainly think it was easier for him to do that once they started piling on the points. Because remember, Chan was not on the field in the beginning of that game.
Right.
For the first quarter and a half, it was all Mostert. And Mostert was just piling on points after points after points.
Yeah.
I think it becomes a lot easier to put a guy like a Chan in who you have no tape on at all after that, and just let him see what he can do against a defense that's obviously just not even trying anymore. I think once they crossed the 40-point mark, they stopped trying. Yeah. Because it looked to me like every time I looked back at the screen.
And no one wanted to talk about it preseason. I wanted to talk about it because I've been talking about it nonstop. I talked about it nonstop last preseason. Like, I think a lot of this is just the Broncos, are not a good offense.
Yeah, I think that's very possibly it. I think Sean Payton is really overrated, and I was hoping he wouldn't be. I was hoping he would kind of come in, like, militarize this team, like, into like being stable, but they are clearly not stable in the worst way. So there's no hope. There's
Broncos fans have no mental stability. Like, there's a lot going on there. I can't even imagine. Okay, let's talk about Thursday night football. Very fun game. Lions are favorites at Lambeau. Green Bay has played 2 super close games, blew the lead to the Falcons. Comeback versus the Saints. What's your overall take on this game, these teams? Like, how are you feeling going into this game?
So this line is flipped since I looked at it initially on Friday. When I do the Thursday night preview for the following week for the game day, this line was Green Bay +1 or -1.5 when I originally looked at it. The total has dropped about 0.5 point. Okay. I was on the Lions when they were 1.5 dogs. I think I'm still on the Lions. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure I want to pick a side just yet. I want to take the under. As far as sides and totals, that's where I'm leaning, because I think the Lions are a better team, but playing at Lambeau is a very, very different animal for a lot of things. And Jared Goff has looked very wishy-washy on the road. He hasn't played great at Lambeau in the couple times that he's played there. So I'm kind of waiting to see what the injury statuses are for all of the Packers guys that didn't play last week. It looks like they're going to get back Aaron Jones and Christian Watson for sure. I saw Jair Alexander practice in a limited fashion, but it still is back. So that's going to be tough. I will note that if Alexander plays, Amon-Ra sucked when he plays. He's only gone over 50 yards once in 4 games against him.
Yeah.
So I took the under on Amon-Ra's 75.5 receiving yards because I anticipate Alexander playing. And then I don't think Christian Watson's going to be back to full health yet. So the other prop I took was Jaden Reed to go over 36.5.
I love Jaden Reed.
Yeah, because the Lions give up the 10th most fantasy points to the slot, and they're pretty good against the outside. So I took Reed there because I think he's continued to play a huge role week after week after week. I do think he's played well enough that he gets onto the field in some 2 wide receiver situations, and he's on in pretty much all 3 wide receiver situations. So, it will be interesting to see what kind of formations they roll out as Watson makes his debut, but that's kind of the way I'm leaning right now.
Yeah, I think I'm torn. I'm staying away from a side as well. What's the total at now?
46.
Yeah, I was saying this earlier when Tej was on. I lean the under in this game, and I kind of lean the over as far as the Giants-Seahawks game goes, which I don't normally like them in prime time, but I think that the number is now already climbed, so you would have needed to get that when it opened. I think it's already up to 47.5, which is too high for me to take the over on. But I'm with you on Jaden Reed. I bet him first touchdown and anytime touchdown. I'm not as nervous about Watson coming back. It feels like a scenario where it's been very vague too how he's doing. So I'm just not. I don't know.
I saw you're on the tight ends too, right?
That's what 100%. I think, and I put out earlier, the market is going to catch up on a lot of these receptions. And I found this last year. I found this the last couple of years. It takes them a while to catch up on receptions before almost anything else. Sam Laporta over 4.5 plus 120, 3.5, over 3.5. I don't know if I said that. And then Musgrave over 3.5 receptions plus 124. You actually can parlay those for plus 365. Do it on DK. Don't do it on FanDuel because it's plus 306. Sam Laporta is very obviously a staple piece in this offense. And he's gone over this 3 games. He's increased from 5 receptions the first 2 to 8. And, he has taken all of these charts and all of these metrics for tight end developmental curves, and he's just shredded them, just absolutely shredded them. You name the metric, he has absolutely blown it out of the water. I think that he's the second option in this offense. A lot of people will disagree with that. I don't care. I don't disagree with it. It's my take. And I think that, he's going to be facing single coverage in this game, most likely. So I think that to go over this, I know a lot of people like his receiving yards prop. I lean the receptions here. It feels safer for me. Where are you at with Laporta? And if, again, I know Tej was talking about it, but if you can somehow still pick him up, which I don't know what fucking league you're in, but please go do it.
Yeah, he was available in 1 league for me this week, and I just narrowly missed him. I was too busy picking up a Chan instead, which is unfortunate.
My camera. But, I stopped moving.
It's the 1 league I have Kyle Pitts in, and I needed another tight end and Laporta.
I should have probably said Laporta. Did you see what I broke my cardinal rule? Did you see what I did in the one Twitter league?
Which one?
The one with Justin.
Okay. What'd you do?
I did my whole fab on HA. I had to.
I did see you did that.
I'm 0-3.
Yeah.
I didn't have an option. There's no one else to pick up. My running backs blow. And I'm at this point, it's I have 2 leagues I'm 0-3 in. It's that one and one other one. And I felt like I didn't really have an option because it's kind of go time now.
Yeah, it's definitely stressful in that league. That's been a tight league. I've been outscored by so many points in that league that it's very sad. I think I'm 1-2. And I think I have a really good team in that league. It just doesn't always work out. My team looks
fine on paper. There's no reason.
Yeah. That's just sometimes the way it works. But I do think that Laporta is just so good. And he's going to absolutely smash every tight end metric that we have for him. The only thing he might not smash is Kyle Pitts' 1,000+ yard season, though. He could definitely track for it. He is definitely the second option there.
Yeah, absolutely. So also Musgrave to go over his also at 3.5. You get a little bit better number there at plus 124. I think Musgrave, you're going to see his role just continue to increase. I think that that's going to be one of Jordan Love's safety nets. And then when you get Watson back, you're probably going to see the two of these guys form like the main like options as for what Jordan Love needs.
Yeah, I'm the only thing I worry about with the Packers is it feels like it's a low volume passing offense.
I can't figure them out
from
yet.
what we've seen. I don't think we've seen enough to see it. We definitely need to see how Watson fits in because he was also kind of a low volume but just high efficiency type of guy last year.
Yeah.
So he's definitely not going to have the touchdown dependency this year. So we're going to have to see how he looks with that. I'm interested to see where that falls. For this game, I did also take Musgrave over 3.5 receptions at that plus money number.
Yeah.
Because, again, I don't think Watson's going to be back, and the Lions are the second worst team against tight ends this season.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking at that. But other than that, this game is a weird game for me. I feel like I can't help but feel like it's going to be one of those weird Thursday night games that ends like 21-18. Like something very ugly. If we cash our props, they're going to be by the skin of our teeth. It's going to be really, really tight all the way through to the end. You don't know, what we're going to see. Montgomery is questionable, but might play. Aaron Jones is questionable, but might play.
Right.
So that there's still a lot to be cleared up with this game in the next 24 hours.
Kind of giving like Aaron Jones. I'd have to see the number. If Aaron Jones is good to go, I'd be interested to see what his receiving and rushing prop combo is, because that might be worth taking a look at. Like you said, just going back, Lions have allowed the most receiving yards to opposing tight ends. So I would not be mad if you also took the over receiving yards. I'm choosing to take the receptions. Totally okay with also putting them into a parlay. Like both of them, if you're interested in first touchdown, if that's something that tickles your fancy, if you like anytime touchdown, I like both of them. Maybe you get spicy and put them together. I also think that this could be a game that we get one of those weird overtime. I don't know. It's giving weird game. It's giving
definitely definitely feels like a weird game.
Yeah.
The fact that it's in Lambeau is going to complicate things.
Yeah.
I don't think we're due to see any weather just yet in Green Bay, but definitely could be a weird game.
No, but one thing that's for sure is there's only one plus money interception prop option for this game, and we're going to take it. Of course, Jared Goff.
Yeah.
No interception plus 114. He didn't throw one last week. Threw one, or maybe the other way around. I don't know. He's thrown 2. That's all that matters. All you need to know. Or no, the Packers. Sorry, I mixed that up. The Packers have allowed 2. Goff has thrown 1. We hit that. I think it was last week.
I think it was last week. He threw it.
We know how he is also outdoors. Not like we're going to be in inclement weather quite yet here in the Midwest. But I still like anytime it's a primetime game like these. It's an awesome bet.
Oh, absolutely. And you're going against 2 solid quarterbacks in Stokes and Alexander. So, yeah. And I also do like Jordan Love not to throw a pick because Detroit secondary is not good.
Yeah.
Plus 105. So you can also get that at plus money for some odd reason. So I'm gonna roll kind of along that line. And other than that, I don't see myself throwing too much on this game.
No, I think there's only one thing that piqued my interest, but the line kind of moved a little bit in a direction that I don't adore. But Jordan Love has been quietly, like, he reminds me of like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, where like when they need to be mobile, they will. Like they're not mobile quarterbacks, but Jordan Love has been running. Like he's gone over his rush prop the last 3 weeks. It's 15.5 minus 105. If you got in a little bit earlier, it was a good number, but I might look at what his rushing and passing is together. And maybe consider an under if Aaron Jones is playing. But yeah, again, I don't know how much I'll have in this game. It's just some stuff to sweat out, nothing crazy. Is there a game this week that you have your eye on before we talk about the Ryder Cup and lose all of the listeners?
Let me see. Let me take a look. Let me take a look at the schedule. I haven't really gotten to throw in everything onto the schedule yet. I've been digging a lot into the Ryder Cup, which is not my typical schedule.
Yeah. What about these 0-3 games? I asked Tej about them. So, we have two matchups with, between some 0-3 teams. So you got Minnesota at Carolina, Denver at Chicago. This might be gross games, might be fun games, might be blowout games. Where are you at with these games? And do you take a lean? Minnesota and Denver are both, I think Minnesota, is a 3.5 point favorite on the road. And I believe Denver is a 3-point favorite unless that line is moved. But that's what
I was really into this Minnesota and Carolina game before Bryce Young was reannounced as the starter 20 minutes ago.
I missed that while I was on the game.
Yeah. It just got announced a little while ago. He practiced in full. He's on track to start, which I was really kind of upset about because my weekly matchups to exploit article that'll come out in about an hour or so. Andy Dalton versus the Vikings trash secondary. One of my favorite things that I was looking forward to this week. I like Bryce Young against the secondary still a little bit less. I think the ceiling's a little bit lowered for some of the Ballinger receivers, but I do think it could still be a sneaky over game. Two offensives that have shown they can score at times with really bad defenses. So I think that'll be probably a sneaky over game that you can get at, pull up the line. You can get that at 45 right now. So that would be an over for me.
Very interesting.
And then the other game that I was really looking forward to this week that I've looked at, kind of surprising to me, not really, Jacksonville at Atlanta in London. Yeah. And the only reason I'm looking forward to this is because Kyle Pitts had 9 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown when he played in London last year. And he scored a touchdown in London before he scored a touchdown in the United States. I'm sure everyone remembers that statistic.
26.9 fantasy points, PPR leagues.
And he hasn't scored that much since.
No. Yeah. But it's interesting. If you are in on him, his line is already out. Receiving yards are 37.5. Receptions are 3.5. I lean the receiving yards direction. He's plus 300 to score a touchdown. I actually think that I probably will end up sprinkling first touchdown just because I know it'll piss everyone off.
Did you see the Lindsey Rhodes tweet from last night?
What is it?
So it's here. Let me pull the Lindsey Rhodes tweet.
And I said, I'm gonna start Kyle Pitts. I'm not gonna do anything crazy with Justin Fields or Kyle Pitts this week because of the matchups and what their schedules look like moving forward. Gonna leave them in this week and then start losing my fucking mind next week.
So tight end target leaders / catchable target percentage through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You got Hawkinson, Laporta, Engram, Ertz, Waller, Kittle, Henry, Pitts, Ferguson, Kelsey. All of these guys are at 82% or better, except for one tight end. Kyle Pitts is the one tight end. Kyle Pitts, while everyone else is sitting at 82% or better, Kyle Pitts is sitting at 53% catchable target percentage through the first 3 weeks. Desmond Ridder fucking blows. He's horrible.
Yes.
So it's clear that we got another Marcus Mariota situation here where the quarterback is just horrible. Please, Arthur Smith, if you somehow listen to this podcast, I'm begging you, start Taylor Heineke.
Smith listens to my podcast, I could die because my life would be made. I think he's such a dad with his little mustache. But also yesterday, did you see how someone tried to call me out for? First of all, I wasn't even cropping the picture to hide Desmond Ridder, but I cropped it out and it was Mostert on my bench that scored 45 something points. And for people that don't play in a lot of leagues and people that don't play in these really deep, 20 bench spot, 4 taxi squad spot leagues, I think they don't get it. So he was like, why are you hiding that you have Ridder on your bench? That is not a flex. You're not flexing on me. You want to know who else is on my bench? Guys that literally are not on teams. So I
have Jarvis Landry on one of my benches.
Yes, I still have Velez Jones Jr. I'm on a taxi squad.
At least he's still in the league. Jarvis Landry isn't even in the league anymore.
Yeah,
it's one of my old dynasty leagues.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. This is going to be an all-time. I'm going to say Ridder. It's going to be an all-time. I might bet Algier to have 2 touchdowns. I think that the Falcons are in a good spot. It's a good put it together spot for Jacksonville. Because I think
I'm betting them first half. I'm going to take them first
Okay.
half. That seems like a spot there.
Yeah, I think this could be. I don't know what that total is at. I haven't looked at the totals this week. I'll go over some of that a little bit more on Friday. But
that's
that might be
at 43. That's a 43.
I like that over quite a bit, actually. All right, everyone is not going to be amused, but we are. Actually, I'll ask you one more question about fantasy, and then we'll move on to Ryder Cup, and then I'll get you out of here. Because I think I already kept you over the time that I told you I would keep you on. So, where are you at with Justin Fields?
Widespread panic.
Widespread. I mean, absolutely
widespread panic. Though I did, I don't watch film that much. I don't watch film that much. I saw a tweet from Kyle Sloter.
I saw that too.
He used to be in the XFL. He's still a QB.
I thought, wasn't he on the Vikings?
I think he was on the Vikings. His Twitter picture is him on the Vikings.
No reason I know that.
There's no reason. There's no reason that you should know that. But
trivia. I'm good at trivia.
Anyways, he's basically just calling out the entire Bears offense and coaching staff around Justin Fields. It's just being inept, unprofessional, just not doing their jobs, and while downplaying the fact that Fields has definitely been bad. There's no denying it, but it's not all on him.
No.
And I'm not really sure that there's anybody else that's in a worse spot right now than Justin Fields is in this Bears organization. And he's one of the few guys that you can say, okay, ship him to a new spot, and he actually is going to get better. Yeah. Like we don't typically say that much. Like typically we say it, but it ends up kind of being a little facetious in that, guys eventually want to bring in their own guy, not some guy they just inherited in a trade because their general manager got him in a good deal. I think Fields is a legitimate superstar in 28 to 30 other spots in the NFL. I think the Bears are extremely doing him a disservice. I think they're kind of tanking without tanking to kind of see who they could get in next year's draft. That's not Justin Fields. I think that I feel like that could be the most destructive thing to a quarterback's career that I've ever seen is what they're doing to Justin Fields right now. It's borderline. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so bad. The state of affairs in Chicago right now for fantasy, I'm not sure what to think, truthfully.
Well, it's hard because you look at the schedule coming up and he has favorable matchups, admittedly.
Yeah.
The concern is what the fuck is going on, because it's an actual disaster. And if you have him on a team that's 0-3, 1-2, like you better be looking another direction, because there is a world where this kid doesn't go back to, whatever QB6, QB5, whatever he finished last year. Like there is a real world where everyone on that team is essentially fucking useless.
Yeah. And there are plenty of fantasy assets on that team that are currently just not startable because of the state of the offensive play calling. Because the offensive play calling is the main issue. It's so bland. It's so predictable. It's just, it makes me sick to watch every week.
You can't watch it. It's not watchable
because I can't. It's just not fun. And truthfully, I'm not sure that the Bears could beat anybody in the National Football League in the most advantageous spot right now.
I'm going to say something really, I genuinely feel this way, so I don't care. I think the Houston Texans are genuinely a better football team than Chicago Bears.
Oh, so do I. They're 30. The Bears are 32nd in my power.
I also think the Arizona Cardinals are a significantly better team than the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, my power rankings come out every week on thegameday.com. They have the Bears at 32nd right now, and the blurb simply reads, "This is a disaster."
It's a bad team.
That's all it reads.
Yeah,
it's all it reads.
Team, period.
This is a disaster.
It's a disaster. I'm done with the Chicago Bears. Let's talk about golf, because we don't get to talk about it before I let you get out of here.
Fun.
It's the Ryder Cup. We have so much to watch. We'll be waking up very early so that we can watch along. Won't get much sleep. hopefully I get my Adderall prescription by then so that I can
I'll be in Miami all weekend in an Airbnb with some friends, and I'm gonna be annoying the crap out of them by waking up at like 3 a.m. to watch.
Yeah, we'll be texting by 4 a.m. every single morning. Yeah. Are you on Team USA, Team Europe? Where are you at? Talk to me.
Yeah, I'm on Team USA. I took them -2 at +150 earlier today, and I took the exact score to be 15.5 to 12.5. And that's really just where I could see this being. So obviously, remember Whistling Straits 2 years ago, 19-9 blowout, biggest loss that Europe has seen in 30 years. It's not going to be that way this year, even though the U.S. returns pretty much the exact same team, minus a few live guys, adding in a few new rookies, Max Homa, Brian Harman,
arguably makes them better, in my opinion.
Exactly. But the reason I don't see it is because Marco Simone is on European soil. The Euros have not lost on European soil in nearly 40 years. So we have to contend with history. I never like contending with history. I think the talent for the United States team is enough to outpace them. And also, I don't think the Euros are that comfortable in 2 balls and 4 balls with each other. It'll definitely be interesting to see who they decide to play together. Rory and Aberg is someone who is a pairing I'm really hoping to see that the Euros throw out on day one.
So awesome.
That's definitely one I'm hoping to see. But I don't think, from a competition and teamwork perspective, I don't think the U.S. can be beat in that scenario. So I do have them winning. I think they win relatively comfortably by at least 2 points. This is because, look, they're just as good on a course like this, as the Euros can be. I don't think there's any particular player that has a supreme advantage. I think both the Euros top players in Rahm and Rory struggle on narrow fairways where you essentially have to get the ball in the fairway. Rory sprayed the ball at times. Rahm always sprays the ball. One bet that I think is really interesting is Hovland to be the top point getter for the Euros. And I know you love that
bet. We're going
5-1.
Forget Team Euro. Team dump truck.
5-1 over on DraftKings for Hovland to lead the European side. The angle is pretty simple. He's the most accurate guy and longest guy, and he's probably the best pure player that they have.
The season he had, talk about a guy that played really clean golf this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I will say, they brought in Robert McIntyre. He's a course specialist here. He's won at Marco Simone before. So, you have to play into that. But I do think the U.S. has just enough. I'm going to keep coming back to it. The U.S. has enough talent to pull this off. And I think their top point getter will be Xander Schauffele.
Oh my God. Interesting. So funny you said that. One, I'll give my 2 cents. I think that if there was a Euro team that could beat the USA team, I think it is this one, but I do still side with Team USA here. So 2 of the bets that I like for the top point scorer on USA is Spieth and Schauffele. Schauffele is very much worth a sprinkle here. What is he at? He's probably plus 600. He's 6. Yeah.
6.
And I want to look at guys here that are more likely to play 5 matches versus 2 matches, right? And then you look at Spieth. I mean, the number discrepancy between different books is enough to get me to bet him. You look at on DK, he's 11-1, and then you look at FanDuel. Maybe I'm mixing them up. 22-1. Spieth's reliable. You look at what his record is: 8-7-3. He was that fucking dude when it came to the President's Cup last September. He's a super well-rounded player. And he's someone that he kind of steps up to the challenge. So I think that Spieth is also worth, I like those 2 bets when I'm looking at Team USA.
Yeah, Spieth is definitely a really interesting one to me. The only reason I lean with Xander over pretty much anyone is I think there's a decent potential that, and this kind of ties into your statement, that if there's any team that can beat the United States, it's this Euro team. I do think they take them down to the last day, and it's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think the U.S. pulls away because they have the better the foursome teams. And I think you're going to see Zach Johnson lean on Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele to do a lot of the heavy lifting down the stretch. They're pretty solidly the best team pairing that will be in this tournament. Unless you kind of think about Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns, because they're pretty much solidly going to be paired up together as well.
Yeah.
But I love Xander. He's 3-1 here. He did really well in his debut in 2021. And I don't bet Patrick Cantlay. So
yeah,
I'm betting Xander.
Yeah, I'm in no bet list, and I'm gonna have to give that to Ryan to pull up when we need to reference it. We do not bet on Patrick. Can't fucking do anything. So he will not be on my card. The only other thing I really like, and I will admittedly have not put like my extensive research that I normally do into this. I do like Homa to be the top rookie on the USA. Okay, listen, guys, but we can talk about it when Sam leaves, but I did win my tournament. But I do like Homa to be the top rookie. I think he's the favorite in that category for a reason.
Yeah. Plus 160. I do like that as well. It was going to be Wyndham before everything he did this week. The guy just can't stop running his mouth. Like, you're falling down the list, man. Everyone's going to be gunning for you. You get Rory McIlroy in singles, you're going to get your ass kicked.
You're going to get he's going to spank you. Yeah, he's definitely.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, I love Wyndham Clark, but you got nothing to say, man. You got nothing to say. You're a rookie. Put your head down, put the work in, go crush. But that's it. That ain't the way.
All right, Sam, you're the best. Love having you on. Give me a score prediction for the Giants Seahawks game on Monday.
Seahawks 30, Giants 7.
Oh my God, so rude. Get off my show. Okay, if you're not following him, go follow him now. Why don't you let everyone know really quick where they can find your work and they'll get you out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find everything on Twitter at Swagman95. All of my content gets posted on there. I'm really, really freaking annoying on there. So I don't recommend following me, but if you do feel so inclined, go right ahead. You can find all of my written content, audio content, video content over at thegameday.com. Great place. Got all of our stuff over there.
Yeah, it's the best. I love the game day. All the guys over there, guys and girls, do great work. But I'll talk to you soon. Text you after this so we can talk a little bit more. I want to add some other stuff to my card that maybe I won't share with everyone.
Absolutely.
All right. Talk to you soon. See ya. Producer Ryan.
Hey.
He is in jail right now.
Sorry, it does look like I'm in a terrorist video or like a hostage situation. I'm in a Airbnb.
Yeah,
I'm
let me know
producing my friend's comedy special. So I'm out on the road, also producing this. So I'm pulling double duty. So
I don't know what's going on with my camera today. I think it's because I'm moving so much.
You usually move that much. We got to get your better camera set up.
Well, I have it. We just need to set it up. Maybe I'll do that today after this. Oh, look, it's back.
Maybe watch a YouTube tutorial video on how to set up your camera and we'll get it going.
I'm going to do that after this.
It'll look great. Okay.
It was awesome. You can see all
First question for today. Who should I pick in the Circa Millions this week? That's from Wales Bet.
Wales Bet. Two things. One, if you're still watching, please subscribe and like. I love you very much. It's very helpful. You guys have helped us grow like massively since we started this, not like a month before the season started. Sad story. Jason's not on. We'll talk about it later. Jason and I are actually out of the Survivor contest, Circa Millions. So I think, what do they even do for Circa Millions? Is it picking a side?
I don't know. I thought you.
I don't even know what. I did not.
I don't have enough money to enter. Okay, we'll move on from this question.
Yeah, like shit. I mean, I can give one. I can pick a side that I do really like here. Let me find one. I keep singing today. It's very bad. I like the Texans +3. I don't know what their number looks like. The Raiders 5.5 is kind of fucking tempting. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But let's move on. Will's Bet, I will shoot you a DM once I.
Are you trusting Joe Burrow for the rest of the year in fantasy? No. That is from Thrill Collins.
I need to, because in one of my leagues I did draft him, and I never draft quarterbacks as high as I did. Joe Burrow is going to be okay. We saw what he was able to do when they had that little contraption on his calf or whatever was going on during that game. My concern is that he re-injures it and then we get crap. I don't think that he's going to let that happen, but
Yeah.
I would be looking at waivers. That's my honest opinion is I would be looking at waivers. I'd be going to stash someone like, honestly, Matt Stafford. If you're in a deep league, like CJ Stroud, I think they're going to be playing from behind a lot. You're going to see a lot of garbage time. You're seeing the numbers that he's putting up as far as passing goes. Some leagues have the Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones should kind of have a rebound. So there should be options on waivers to kind of stash should he re-injure.
All right.
I'm
Final
not
question.
either.
Technically 2 questions. James Cook or Mostert this week?
Okay, let me use my brain very quick.
I thought Sam brought up a good point in the fact that they only brought Arcana on after Mostert already put up so many yards and it looked like the defense already quit. So do you think they'll go back to using him more?
I think they will. I think that they're, I think with A-Chain, we talked about this. I was talking about this with someone on Twitter earlier, is like he is technically down the pecking order when it comes to these running backs. The advantage that you have, because Wilson Jr. is coming back and you have Mostert, is I didn't nickname Mostert most hurt for no reason. Like these guys are really susceptible to injury. I'm not saying they're injury prone and to stay away from them because there's someone you still start. But I think that, looking at it, Miami has given up more fantasy points to running backs. They're in probably the top 10 most fantasy points allowed to running backs over these last 3 weeks than the Bills are. So I actually lean maybe James Cook. I think that they're going to be able to air it out against this team. It's hard with a team like the Dolphins because they're so dynamic that you almost have – this is my problem with the Dolphins. And maybe we'll talk about this more Friday when I have Dave on. Everyone's kind of a must start if they're like the RB1 and the wide receiver 1 and even the wide receiver 2 because you get Waddle back. I think they use a lot of Waddle. My lean here is James Cook just off of gut. Ayuk and Lockett. I don't know if Ayuk is fully healthy yet, but
yeah, he's
I'll tell you
questionable.
I'll tell you one thing. Like I feel like Lockett, and I have no reason to feel this way, I feel like he does totally eat up the Giants when he does play them. The Giants are allowing, let's see where they fall in this. I mean, they're actually been pretty good against wide receivers, shockingly, as far as fantasy goes. That surprises me. If Ayuk is healthy, start Ayuk.
All right, there you go. All right, and then we have to talk briefly because I cut the clip and then we didn't talk about it, but
okay.
I think there was a big debate over whether you said horny or corny. I think you made up a new term called hacorny. Hacorny. It's when you're horny about something, but you're kind of being corny about it. Let's just go to the clip again real fast.
And he is getting schemed up. I have chills. I'm so corny.
Listening to that right now in the moment, what do you think you said?
I think I said corny still.
Okay.
I'm sticking with it. I have good ears. I'm going to stick with that. I think I was maybe because I was leaning going the horny way and then I said corny, but then it combined into one word. So hacorny. Yes.
Tell us about your club championship.
Oh, yes. Would you guys like to see all the hardware I have? Let me show you. Remember I told you guys I was playing and this is from last year.
You've already lost her golf club.
And I lost hers already.
Oh, it's already gone.
Yeah,
there was someone in the chat saying that the only bet for golf is that you would lose the club already. How do you lose the club?
I don't know. Drinking? I'm just so happy because this we won by a landslide. This one we did not. This was a battle. But I came up, I was pissed. We were the last ones off. It was a shotgun start. And I was so annoyed. I'm like, let's just get down there. Like I was pissed off at everyone because I thought we did so bad. And we didn't. We won. So I don't know how I got to take them home because it's a team of 4. But I was like, people are going to see them if they're behind me. No one's going to see yours. So
that's worse. Yeah.
So these are my trophies. I'm glad that I could share with you guys. Tune in Friday. Dave Kluge with Football Guys, my dear friend, is coming on. Second guest up in the air. We'll let you guys know tomorrow who that's going to be. If you're still watching, like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys then.
Watch him make it, break it, break it, break it